because in triathlon, if you get injured, you're done. You're off the team, you can't compete anymore, you don't go and get fixed and come back, that's that. So a great deal of resources and time and energy were spent on trying to prevent these happenings and keeping us out there and active on the field. So how does this relate to the workplace? Well, your employees, your workers, they're, as Casey mentioned, Dr. Hummel, they are the industrial athletes. You know, triathlon is an individual sport, but the workplace is often a team environment, whereas one person's performance can affect the overall output of the team. So, shifting more of the resources from reacting with expensive workers' comp claims and surgery and injections and more surgery and painkillers over to spending less money to implement measures to identify weaknesses for employees or identify ergonomic issues and other things like that that can lead to injuries can not only increase employee productivity, thus increasing the bottom line, it also increases employee morale. I think we're coming full circle today. We talked about servant leadership and things like that. Being an employer that demonstrates care and all of those things for the employees, keeping them injury-free or trying to prevent their injuries before they happen, obviously renders positive results in the morale category. So you have the increased productivity, increasing corporate bottom lines, but you also have, you increase your bottom line by saving on heavy costs, workers' comp costs, things like that. So I'll keep this quick. I know we're already over our time, but in summary, you know, treat your employees like the corporate athletes they are. Implement these preventative measures. Be proactive, not reactive. And again, it will render results far greater than our current system of reacting to injuries and reacting to workplace problems. Again, increased morale, increased productivity, decreased expenses. It's pretty much a win-win for all parties involved. And I know we're 5 minutes over time. I wanted to go ahead.
Actually, we have 8 minutes, but
oh, we do?
Schedule and time, another where 2.5 minute reel. That's the end.
Sure.
Here at ESOP, we have different industries. We have our manufacturing, our distribution center, and an office, our office personnel. BHS program is able to work with all 3 of those different jobs, and it is a huge win for everyone. BHS program has been the most beneficial to our distribution center. Our team here works 60 hours a week and literally for those 60 hours, and so it has been a critical program for our distribution center. Here at ESOP, our rolling TRIR is a 0.18. It shows that our employees are not getting injured here at ESOP. We had an employee that had carpal tunnel, and she went to 5 different treatments, and as a result, her carpal tunnel is gone, and that directly saved us $75,000. In the year 2020, we only had 1 reportable injury, and we went 364 days without an injury as a direct result of the BHS program. Well, this just shows that the company truly cares about their employees when you provide such a great program as BHS.
My name is Keith, and I've been an estimator, installer, and fabricator in the custom sheet metal fabrication field for 40 years. About 6 months ago, I developed pain in my ankles, and it has made life very difficult for me. Going up and down ladders and walking all day long, it was very painful, so my productivity was decreased. After my very first treatment, the pain had subsided 50%. After my second treatment, the pain had gone down another 50%. After the third treatment, the pain was nearly gone, and after I had my 4th treatment, I have felt no pain. BHS has changed my life.
So my name is Leo Stevens. I'm very active in CrossFit. My son and I run a lot. At work, when I was at the computer, reaching out in front of me, typing, after a couple hours, my shoulder would stiffen up. I couldn't lift over my head very much. reaching for something on a high shelf was almost impossible for me. It was too far over my head. Prior to treatment, my shoulder pain was on a daily basis a 7 all the time. And depending on what we did at CrossFit, it could be an 8, sometimes a 9. I tried a number of things. I did some stretching exercises. I went to a physician who basically, his advice was, well, we'll work on it, but we might want to do surgery, and surgery is only about 50% effective. So I went to BHS. They did a diagnostic, looked at my shoulder, looked at my mobility, and started a treatment regimen. We probably did 5 or 6 treatments over 5 or 6 months. After treatment, when I would leave, I would have full mobility, no pain whatsoever. My quality of life, if it was a 5 or 6 prior to treatment, it's back to 10. And you know, preventive medicine is the best.
We finished 4 minutes early. Are there any questions? Is it because we did such a good job defining the problem and then painfully force-fed you the solution? I get it, I really do, but there is a better way than we're used to, there really is. I'm living proof of it. I mean, I just very passionate about this, and we are not going to hurry and pack up out there. So if you are experiencing any pains, come, please. Let our doctors put their hands on you. Do a mobility health assessment. Everybody here doesn't have a t-shirt, needs a t-shirt. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Brent. Team, thank you very much.
From home because they're utilizing or buying their product. So I would say be really, really careful who's shaping the narrative around work from home. Now in saying this, I'm admittedly biased. We build office buildings. I was at a groundbreaking for an office building today. So I'm admittedly biased that I don't think work from home has sustainable staying power. The other thing is be careful of, and I'm not picking on them, some of you may have family members or spouses that work there, but PwC, PricewaterhouseCoopers, or I guess they're now just PwC, an accounting and consulting firm here, whatever it was, inside the last 60 days, came out and said, work from home. We're working from home. We're reducing our real estate footprint. We're going to work from home. So let me tell you, who provides consulting and accounting services? People do. They're in the same war for talent that our firms are all in, right? So if they can distinguish or differentiate themselves by an offering within their firm that looks different than their very small list of competitors, guess what? They benefit from that. So be careful of the technology companies and the companies that are trying to shape that narrative different. And then the other thing, and I would just get really personal with you about our firm, we've looked at within our firm and we've said we think 1 in 4 jobs, you can look at that person and say, go home today. You can do your job from home. It would work perfectly. Go, leave. We love you. We're going to continue to provide you a paycheck, benefits, employee ownership, all the great things that we offer our employees, but you can do your job from home. Run alone. You don't get my great Sonic Ice and all my different coffee flavors and all. You can do all that at home. Okay, 1 in 4. The other 3, by the way, so many of our jobs are on construction projects. Can't do that from home, right? But the other 3 out of 4, 75%, we've determined they need to be in the office. Regardless of the stats, here's what I firmly believe. Construction is a show-me business. This industry is show-me. And I happen to think that looking out in a room full of professionals, and I happen to think that those that work in our firms, they want to be visible. They want the connection. They want the collaboration. They want the socialization. And so one of the things that, again, if I were to frame a little bit of my encouragement, we're seeing office building design. I don't think this is going to be about renovating offices. I think we're seeing developers say, and large organizations say, we need to have space that makes people want to be here. So guess who's going to get to be the benefactor of that? Well, those people that work in those new office spaces that are so inviting and better than their house. And then, oh, by the way, the construction industry will benefit because it will provide opportunity. So 3 other quick ways that I'm encouraged that maybe you hadn't thought about. First, business continuity. The way that this industry was able to keep going during a literally unprecedented, no book on the shelf to tell you how to deal with it, pandemic is phenomenal. And again, I feel like I wasn't asked to do this, but do you know who I think was a huge engine behind keeping business going? Safety professionals. Solving problems that we didn't even know existed or would exist ever in our life, but guess who was raising their hand to say, hey, have we thought about, or we need to do this, or we need to think about this? It was this room that was driving a lot of that business continuity. And for that reason, I'm really, really encouraged because we're in an industry that's going to keep going and keep solving problems. Another thing that I would just say that I'm encouraged is we talk a lot about technology, but there's 2 things there. One, just the digital collaboration. So I've been impressed with the ability to meet without meeting, to meet away from traditional meeting opportunities. You no longer have to have maybe a superintendent meeting at 6:30 or 7 a.m. You can do that virtually. Maybe there's, I'm quite certain we've all been on Zooms and Teams and different virtual meetings. That's unbelievable. When I talk about technology, augmented reality is going to take over our industry. The ability for someone to take a phone, and I would need that 7th grader that I told you about here to explain all that way will work. But when you're going to be able to just point and scan or whatever it is that you do with your phone and find out when that was installed, who did it, the material that was used, the safety data sheet that applies to what put it together, the pre-task plan that discussed what was going to happen that day. When all that happens, and some of this you're going to say, Brad, that was 2 years ago. Some of your firms don't even know it exists. I'm just going to tell you, the groundswell is going to continue to come. And so it's a reason that I'm encouraged. And then the last thing I would say, another reason I'm encouraged, and again, I'm playing to my audience, is the things that we did to keep people safe during a pandemic and keep people working, unprecedented. I want to give you guys some credit. I want you to give yourself some credit. Because everybody, and man, we're fortunate that, and I tell this to owners all the time, we work at the time we were in San Francisco all the way to Orlando, Florida. And I can name you locations in between, Chicago, Newark, obviously all over Texas. And do you know what? We had municipalities, and some right here in our, God bless Texas, that were absolutely trying to shut the industry down. Okay? Because I guess they thought construction sites, commercial construction sites, were just petri dishes for death. We're going to shut that job down. We're not going to work. Can't do construction work. Oh, by the way, manufacturing, anything else that people can see, let's keep that going. All of a sudden, construction and commercial construction were targets to be shut. I don't get that. But guess what? The enhancements and the response that we did to keep people safe, we got to keep that going. I'm encouraged by the steps that firms took. I mean, the ingenuity that teams and people and safety professionals led to keep people safe. I'm encouraged with where that can go. I don't want to lose it. How do we take that and make that next transition? But I'm really, really encouraged. Now let's get to the reasons to be concerned. And these are just some cold hard facts. You can go read about these. The AGC and Autodesk just put out a study. I don't know how much of that you studied. 9 out of 10 projects, this was in September, 9 out of 10 projects experiencing delays. 9 out of 10 projects experiencing delays. And some of you are sitting there and going, oh, God, do I know it? Some of you may be saying, not on my job. Some of you are lying. 9 out of 10 projects are experiencing project delays. That's a reason for concern. Doesn't get better here. That same research or recent publication says 93% of firms say that rising material costs are impacting projects. So back to my batting analogy, 9 out of 10 projects experiencing delays. Over 9 out of 10 are dealing with material issues that are impacting projects to the point of also stopping those projects. That's a reality, okay? And some of you better start getting serious about just getting your kids or grandkids something for Christmas, okay? Because, you're not worried about it, I'm just telling you, that Nintendo Switch that your kid wants, it ain't gonna happen unless you buy it now, okay? But that said, that's a major, major issue. And then one other thing that some of you are gonna say, what in the hell is this guy talking about? This is not a political statement, okay? I wanted to get a Let's Go Brandon chant going in here today. I'm not gonna do that. I went too political there. I shouldn't have done that. Some of you just dove off in a ditch. This $1 trillion infrastructure thing causes concern for me. Causes concern. Some of you are saying, well, what are you talking about? That could be good for our business. If the residential market stays as hot as it is, and let's just keep this in Dallas-Fort Worth, if the residential market stays as hot as it is, and if the commercial market is trying to come back the way that it forecasts that it is, and then all of a sudden you put in civil and infrastructure projects all on top of that, all by the way where we have workforce shortage issues and material and supply chain issues, it sounds great to say we're pumping $1 billion back into the construction economy. It's going to choke the entire goose. It's going to put a clamp around everything else. And it's going to make that rubber band that we've already got getting back stretch even more if we add this third component to it. So I love talking about it. And I love the challenge of trying to go figure it out and fix it and make this country better. So don't take anything I'm saying about we need to improve infrastructure as me being against that. It's not a political statement. I'm just going to tell you, I just told you 9 out of 10 projects are experiencing delays. 93% of projects are having issues with materials and price that are creating issues for those projects and to the point of stopping them. We had $1 trillion. I can't even get my head around what $1 trillion is. That's cause for concern. Sorry, I hate to be Debbie Downer. Let me give you 3 more that are reasons that I'm concerned. These again are a little bit different way of looking at it potentially. Hyper competition. So those of you that work in Dallas-Fort Worth, you want to know a reason I'm concerned? State of our industry. I don't know how many of you work for firms that have come in the last 1 year, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years. But let me say this, because of the reasons that I'm encouraged and the opportunities that we see within the commercial construction industry, enough to be encouraged about. But guess what? People that haven't been here want to be here. And I forget, who was it that sang the girls always get prettier at closing time? Is that Mickey Gilly? Who was that? Who was this? You're impressed with me, aren't you? That's my guy right there. I got to be equal opportunist here, but when you throw a lot of opportunity in a room full of contractors, we don't all of a sudden get smarter. Kind of becomes like closing time. Things start looking better. We start getting out of our swim lanes. We start chasing work that we otherwise wouldn't chase. And maybe cutting numbers that we otherwise wouldn't cut. Because we got a mouth to feed. We got an engine to keep running. And let me just say this, there's hyper competition in this market. And it doesn't breed intelligence. Okay? It's no shot. But hyper competition is a reason for concern. Another reason for concern, and you all know this, and I'm going to probably take a little bit different angle at it. We have a war on, there's 2 parts to, my last 2 points here. We have a war on talent. And many of you have never had more recruiter calls than you've had probably in the last 60 days. Okay? This is the former HR guy and the current president of a company. I would tell you, you might try to look at watering your own grass before you start trying to figure out if the grass is greener elsewhere. Sorry, that's a complete sidebar. But that said, that recruiter that is reaching out to you has a self-invested interest to place you someplace else. It may not be in your best interest. But that said, we're in a war for people. And that's just what you would call the salaried people, the professional staff. Now we get to the trade staff, we all know the workforce shortage that we're experiencing there. Let me give you just one. It came out just here, maybe it was today or yesterday. We finally, it's kind of funny when you cut off unemployment benefits for, supplication for a lot of people. It's kind of funny how this happens, but we, for the first time since the pandemic, we now have more available jobs than we have people for those jobs. So that's just happened. So guess what? The demand is there. So in order to get those people, if something's in demand, you're going to pay more for it. So the challenge that we have currently is how do we attract people into this industry? You all know that, live that every day. But the shortage, that narrative, you all are living it. It is tremendous cause for concern. And then the last thing I'll say that gives me concern beyond all the things that I just talked about, and I was talking with a couple of folks before as I was watching 62 people leave to not hear me speak. You all know this better than anybody in our industry. Our business has gotten to be more than building just buildings. It used to be, some of you unfortunately have gray hair, look old. That's just me being honest with you. I'm starting to resemble that. I know how that feels. But it used to be you just got a set of plans and you went and built, right? How much, and let me simplify this point so we can get out of here. I looked at you all's agenda today, and I wish I could have been here. There were a lot of reasons why I couldn't. But when I looked at you all's agenda, to make my point about it's more than just building a building, start with where your day started. Now I love Harold McDowell talking about servant leadership, but right after that, you went to talking about depression and suicide. Man, I'm not equipped to deal with that. That's more than just building a building. Look at the rest of your agenda today. You're talking about insurance. You're talking about things that just get you to, we're talking about COVID and mandates and OSHA mandates and those type of things. Think of all these things that are no longer just what you do in your job. It's more than just building a building. And when we get distracted and when we have to focus on other items and when other items become priority, do the buildings take priority? No, it becomes about everything else. And we have to remember what our core business is, and that is building buildings safely, on budget, on time, and with a high level of quality. And let me encompass, because I'm going to go to my real stretch point that and then I'm going to close. I want to make sure something that I keep reminding our people, and then when I've had opportunities to have conversations like this, do you know the one thing that has not changed with the pandemic and where the industry's headed and the state of the construction industry? Owner expectations. Owner expectations have not changed. I've had more conversations in the last 2 weeks thinking about this message where I'm like, good God Almighty, do these people not realize that we just went through a major pandemic? Do they not read the paper? Do they not know the supply chain issues? Do they not know that material prices are going up? Do they forget the ice-mageddon that we had right here in our own state that shut down plastic production for weeks? Guess what? Owners aren't coming off their expectations. So I hate to be that bearer of bad news, but that's just, again, as I kind of put those two things together, it's nothing more than a reminder. So I would ask you, as you look at your rubber band, still expected to perform. You got to fit whatever it is you're going to wrap this around the same way you did 20 months ago. Because that owner's expecting that. That general contractor's expecting that. No excuses. Hey, my real stress point for you, and I wish I had a dry erase board, but I don't. But here's 3 things that really, one, it's just an economy lesson 101 about the construction industry. There's 3 things that make up our pricing. Yeah, we're all in business to, feed families and, do altruistic things, but at the end of the day, in order to keep the lights on, we have to make a profit. And there's 3 things that go into our business just as a simplification for just having this conversation. Labor rates, material prices, margin, and overhead. Fee, profit, whatever you want to call that. So can I call that profit? Y'all okay if I call that profit? Some accountants would say, margin and overhead. I'm going to call it profit, money. Labor rates, I just told you what's happening. Labor rates, right? Demand for people is high. Getting people into our industry, never been more challenging. Material pricing, I mean, literally could show you graph after graph after graph of every component that goes into a building that's had pricing variability, in some cases up to 100% more than we were paying for 20 months ago. Labor rates, material pricing, profit. A little perspective, we're seeing labor rates go up. Want the state of the industry? We're seeing that be adjusted. Material pricing, you ain't gonna go buy something and lose money on it for the hope of building a building. So we're seeing material pricing go up. You know the one thing that we're not seeing go up? Profit. You know, I tell you when the rubber band breaks is when you start making decisions to, yep, we're going to increase our labor rates, yep, we're going to increase our material pricing, but whoa, we need work. And then all of a sudden you start winning more work and depressed margins, or margins that can't make up for the decisions you made on labor rates. Maybe you missed the material pricing. Maybe somebody didn't provide or perform for you and leaves you holding the bag. That's going to create that rubber band breaking. And it's a major stress point. So there's a little construction economy. If you want to get into your business, you want to know what you do, ask what your labor rates are, ask where you're at material pricing, and then ask if your margins are going up. Hey, the last thing I'll say, hope that's been helpful. A lot of that's perspective. This last part is just me taking advantage of having a room full of people. And it's 4:39. We're going to be done no later than 4:45. But I wanted to take advantage of a room full of safety professionals. I tried to encourage at the beginning. I did want to give you a little perspective that maybe this helps, and maybe it puts a bow on the day. I don't know. Maybe it's exactly what you paid for. Nothing. Okay? They were going to get Fred per Paul. He charges too much. I charge nothing to be here today. The thing I always want to encourage a room full of safety professionals is be a business partner. Okay? It's one thing to be a professional. I hope the one thing after today is you go away and you start thinking, man, I'm just the safety person. I'm just the safety guy. I'm just the safety gal. You know the one thing that I would hope that you would do is look at stretching the rubber band and thinking beyond just being the safety person. I want to issue that challenge. And again, I issue that in the form of being a business partner. And you all have been to safety conferences before where you've heard this talk, and others have provided perspective on it. Let me give you my 2 cents on what being a business partner looks like. First and foremost, I would tell you that over the last 20 months, you've probably been more involved in your business than you ever were before, ever in your career. If you step back and you thought about it, and here's the thing, we haven't had a whole lot of time to step back and think about it, because we've just been solving problems that our industry wasn't ever prepared or equipped to know how to deal with. Everything has been a just-in-time solution. But think about that. You've been more involved in other parts of your business than just safety over the last, whatever you want to call it, than you've probably ever been in your career. I don't know if that's true for you. To make the rest of my points, I'm going to believe it to be true. But here's how else you can be a business partner. HR. You ever thought about being a business partner with HR? I just told you the challenge that we have with workforce and getting people into our industry. But have you ever thought, I'm going back to the things that I said that I'm so proud to be associated with so many of you, because I know the care and the place and the position that the professionalism you put behind your job. But when you think about HR, you guys often have a first touch point of orientating and bringing someone into an organization and making them part of your culture. Do you do that with excellence? Do you do that well? Do you ever think that, the fact that if you're really good at doing that, that person that came into that company because, well, I think they're a good company and they've got work and they offered me a job, but man, I like that safety guy. He seems to really buy in. He cares about me. And he took a lot of time, or safety gal, whatever it may be. Have you ever thought that maybe you can make someone more loyal to your organization by the job you do and bringing them in? Might be something to think about. Have you ever thought that, because I think one of the biggest challenges This was not part of the state of the industry. I wish our industry would get better. I wish Brad Brown could snap his fingers and fix it. But the number one thing we have about getting people into this industry that I think we do best and we don't sell is we care for people. And we have immense opportunities, more than people will step up to, because there's so many different ways to make money today that don't have to work in construction, don't have to put themselves in a position that may present some risk or some challenge. But the fact of the matter is, I would tell you, you might could be a business partner with HR and figuring out how do you sell how well we care for people. Because at the end of the day, we all just want to be cared for. If you go back to Maslow's hierarchy of needs, do you know one of the first things we need? It's love, care, security. Safety does that. Partner with your HR departments. Have you ever thought about partnering with your marketing departments? I observe, I'm looking at our guys over here. Do you know that if I took I've got 4 safety professionals, there's maybe more in the room, but 4 safety professionals that work for us, they see more of our business than I will, than a proposal coordinator, than an operations guy. They observe more being on a project than anybody else in our organization. Are you sharing that information? I know you're there to see observations and to watch people and make sure they're wearing PPE and, to make sure they're doing a task right or that they're tied off or whatever it may be. But have you ever thought that when you look, you say, wow, I don't remember us ever doing that before. We need to capture that and then share that with our market. We need to sell this in our next proposal. We need to be telling the world that we do this better than anybody in the world. Can I challenge you as safety professionals to open your eyes a little bit more to being that business partner with both HR and marketing and figuring out, because of all you do see, how you could add more value to your firm? Risk management. I think it's a constant challenge for safety professionals. Do you understand your insurance and risk management programs? Do you know why it costs what it costs? Do you understand that well? Or are you just out doing your job? I would challenge you to be a business partner with your risk management programs. I would challenge you to be a business partner with operations. And I could talk long and hard on this, but the one thing that I would challenge you, do you know that one of the, safety, quality, schedule, budget, but do you know one of what I think that one of the next horizons for our industry that safety has direct control over is data. There's so many companies out there, construction technology companies, trying to tell you how to use your data. Do you know where I think our organization collects more data? Is safety. How are you utilizing safety data? Are you making safety data matter to your company? And I don't think you have to be an Excel wizard or a financial expert or an accounting expert, but I would challenge you as safety professionals, and if you want to be a business partner and you want to be more than just that safety pro, make your safety data matter. Last thing I'm going to tell you, and just maybe personalize it to me, and I don't think I'm anybody. I hope what I've showed today is that just a common idiot can ascend to a role because of God's providence to be made president of a construction company. But let me give you a challenge today about, have you ever thought about being a business partner with your company president, with your senior leadership? Have you ever thought what that looks like? Let me tell you what I would put a challenge out. I'd put a one-page summary today, 1 page. We don't have time to read a whole lot. Not that important, but just brain span, bandwidth. Put a 1-page summary of what you heard today, what you're going to do different, a new standard you're going to set for your organization. What's something that you learned today, either through one of these sessions, and quite certain there was nothing about what I said, but in these other sessions, or in a conversation you had in the hall that you think your company needs to apply and do. Share that with your leadership. Invite them on a job well. Told you, I can't do enough for safety. But you know what? I got guys over there, I think they know if they come to my door, I'll talk to them, or I'll schedule a time to. But don't wait for that president or that senior leader to make that invite to you. You go do that. Send them a thank you for opportunities like today. Tell them thanks for letting you go sharpen your saw, for letting you go be better, for letting you go improve and change outcomes for individuals, for families, for an industry. You ever thought about that? About being that type of business partner? Last thing I'll say is, this will really stretch some of you. Have you ever thought about how safety fits into your company's vision and strategic plan? Is it even in there? Should be, right? Who's going to ask for that? Who's going to be best to provide that? You are. So at the same time, I'm asking you to stretch yourselves, but don't let the rubber band break. And yes, I heard myself earlier when I said, man, you're having to do a lot more than just build buildings. I would just challenge you, as you've heard before. It always comes out as, man, I want a seat at the table. I would challenge that business partner concept. How can you go be a business partner? Because I think as an industry and as professionals, you've done more over the last 20 months than we ever thought we could do. And we've kept an industry safe. And we continue to make strides on that journey to be better as an industry. And I commend you for being here. Appreciate the opportunity to discuss the industry and where I see it. And I wish you success both professionally and in your firms. Have a great night.
Thank you, Brad, so much. That was exceptional. Thank you. Another round of applause for him. That was really good. I want to thank again our platinum sponsor, Milwaukee, for being our platinum sponsor for the raffle things that you provided. Thank those guys very much. They've been very supportive of the conference and other functions as well. Thank all of our vendors, all of our sponsors. Thank all of you for spending the entire day with us. For those